Okay, folks. Sorry about the kerfuffle with class. I knew that this was going to happen. Teams is at best wonky, and where I live, the internet is best at wonky. I should never have come home. Anyway, issues resolved, and anyway, que sera. This was a short unit anyway. We're not going to be more than probably 30 minutes. And now that you folks aren't even on the class with me, it might be less than that. Again, this is kind of yeah, quite a short little unit that we're going to be covering. Basically, yesterday we talked about the first step in the sales process, which is prospecting and qualifying. And the next step in that process is step two, the pre-approach. Basically, I have the pre-approach, which is really the planning stage. And then there's the approach, the presentation, and then so forth. Um, the pre-approach, I guess a good way to think about the pre-approach in a sales call or a sales presentation or your initial contact with a qualified prospect is really kind of comparable to if you were to, let's say, go on a trip to, maybe you're taking a road trip to, let's say, Alberta, and you need to make a few stops along the way. Before you head out, most likely, I would hope, or maybe you wouldn't. You probably have a plan in terms of how you're getting there, what you are going to need for the trip, any preparations you need to make for the trip while you're away, in terms of if you have pets or home care or things you need checked on. You need to have had set up your accommodations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There would be a whole litany of items that you would have had to have thought through before you actually got in the car and headed out. It's the very same idea with the pre-approach. It is all about the pre-planning stage of making that kind of initial sales pitch. The qualifying and prospecting, you're not really necessarily selling anything at that point. You're listening and you are um, kind of taking in and getting an understanding of what the client's needs are. So you can then, in your pre-planning or the pre-approach stage, get ready to kind of come with that package, to come with that, here's the resolution, here are all the benefits, advantages, based on what you said you needed, based on the Q&A that we had in the qualifying stages. That can also happen again after the presentation or the approach and then the presentation part of the sales piece. There could be some back and forth there in terms of objections, et cetera, after that. But nonetheless, these are kind of the linear steps that should be taken. So in the pre-approach, um, again, it's that really critical step to be able to, in it, as this says, earn your customers' trust. And we've talked about the importance of trust. We've talked about the importance of listening and selling adaptively. So really making adjustments and adapting to the customer's needs, wants, et cetera, and being open to that instead of being really rigid in how you want to approach it, but being open to the customer. Ideally, that's going to build better rapport. Um, so again, in the pre-approach and in your unit, it talks about that can look like, either a new customer, which could be a new target account, perhaps, and an existing customer, maybe one of a key accounts you already have. You will notice it when you review this chapter, it does really talk about the pre-approach from a business to business sales. Doesn't necessarily talk about individual consumers. I mean, it does a little bit, but in the reading of this unit, it does really speak about business to business sales. So just keep that in mind. I mean, this also still applies if you're dealing with individual customers versus a business where you'd be approaching, you would have to consider some things differently. So you'll see that in some of the language, and we've talked about this already. So before you get ready to make that pre-call and connect with that customer or customers, you need to know a few things. You want to know if you should, what your objectives are. So, what are some of your goals of the meeting? Are you hoping to um, find out, what exactly the customer needs in terms of maybe units, depending on what you're selling? Are you hoping to, um, you know, look at potentially current customers, competition, What are some things that you want to find out? You want to know about who their customers are. You want to know who their competition is. You want to see if they already have current supplier, all of those things. So again, that's that research piece. So you want to jot down kind of what are the objectives of your call? Like what are you hoping to get out of that and have that measurable so you're able to go back and say, okay, I did this, this, and this. Um, and then obviously researching all that basic company information and knowing as much as you can. We talked a bit about this yesterday during class time. And then really the last step in that is doing what's called the pre-call planning worksheet. There's a template in your chapter or the unit that kind of gives you a sense of what that could look like. Obviously, this is just one way of doing that. This is very structured, may not be for everybody. But essentially, you should have something where you are recording kind of the contact information, the company, the phone, where they're located, if there was a lead or somebody you connected with in that company, some things that you are facts or information that you already know. So that would have been done through your research, through the contact that perhaps you were initially speaking to, or the prospect that you had initially talked to. And then obviously thinking about what are some of my goals for this session or for this call. And here are just some examples, information I plan to gather about the company, about the contact or the prospect or the persons that I need to be speaking to, information I should know, what they should perhaps know about me. So what do I want to share? What do I think they need to know about our company, about our product, about our customer service? What are the things that we're going to be able to offer as a company to them? So what should I highlight? Again, this is going to be based on that Q&A and the real listening part as a lead up to that. Specific actions that the prospect should agree to take. So if there's thing that you want to have happen next, there may be agreeing to maybe a next meeting to kind of discuss further. If that's a goal, you want to figure out in your pre-plan and in your approach how you're going to work towards that. And other potential goals that you may have that you want to achieve by the end of the call. But that's a lot in one call, and you may have to do this over more than one call. That's a reality as well. So things about the company which you would want to do, again, that research, so thinking about the demographics of the company. So, what's the size of the company, where are they located, et cetera. Any company news, things that are happening with the company. So doing some research on places like LinkedIn or even on their social media sites, their website, if they put out any kind of public relation pieces or things that are happening with the organization that may be a place for you to also approach around sales opportunities. The financial performance, so how they're doing as a company, you can usually any company that's publicly traded, you can access that information publicly, or if it's an entity similar to like the Nova Scotia Community College or any college that's a public institution, they have to put out that information yearly. I think actually, I don't know if it's quarterly or yearly. Yeah, it might be biannually actually. Nonetheless, you find out kind of how they're doing and what's happening that way. You also want to think about who their customers are. So what do the customers look like? Age, target audience of customers, where are they located? Where are they accessing these customers? Finding out all of those parts. And obviously, this is very generalized information because this is very specific to individual businesses and what they sell and what their service is. So I'm just kind of speaking in generalized terms. In the unit, in the readings, there's very clear and really great examples as well. So if you wanted to go look at some further info around it, but I'm just kind of generalizing it because it's fairly straightforward information. Again, what's the number of clients that they have or customers? So what's the size? And also looking at reviews and trying to find out what are customers actually saying about the potential prospect or the qualified prospect that you have, that company. Like, so what are some of the reviews out there? Are they good? They bad? Is there an opportunity potentially that you can bring up in that approach or that first approach? Based on things that you're reading about what customers are saying. So these are just some things to think about in terms of the prospect company. And again, this is when we're thinking B2B or business to business sales. But these are some of the things to consider. Obviously, researching the customer's company are the company's customers, which you just mentioned, but the current buying situation. So we talked about the four types of buying situations in an earlier unit. I'm trying to think which unit it is. Oh, why and how people buy. And your contact person at the company to help you tailor that approach. So you have that person, you have that in, so utilizing that person as well around getting prepared for the approach. In terms of current buying situations, sorry, I just want to go back to that for a moment. So if you recall, we talked about buying four types of buying situations, which were a new task, a straight rebuy, a modified rebuy, and a strategic alliance. So again, a new task is it's a brand new sale. You have they've not ordered from you before. They haven't used your services before, or used your products before. This is a brand new sale, which includes lots of potential opportunity there. Again, depending on the nature of the company and the product and the service being sold. Straight rebuy is if you perhaps have an existing customer and you're let's say a supplies like your Staples, for example, and you're the vendor for so here at the NSCC we use Staples as our vendor for some supplies and such as stationery and office supplies and such. So again, we do kind of straight rebuy generally here in the Innovation Center. So we buy kind of the same things regularly because we do the same type of work regularly. So that would be a very straight rebuy where you're not making any real changes to that. You want to get the same thing. You're happy with the product. Modified rebuy, maybe you want to reduce your cost a little bit and you're looking to find a different product. Maybe you're going to again work with the salesperson around how do we modify that based on my needs? So if my needs change in terms of I can't afford the product that I currently am getting from you, do you have a different product at a lower cost? Or perhaps you want to add to kind of what you are purchasing, you need something else that has come up, then that would be a modified rebuy. Strategic alliance, that's an example of where there may be potential for two companies to align themselves or to work together strategically. An example could be I guess a good example could be like Chapters. Have you ever been into Chapters bookstore? They have a strategic alliance with Starbucks, so they only sell Starbucks coffee and sales inside their stores. Starbucks has a strategic alliance with Spotify, where they basically it's basically like trade promotion, really, where they are creating and clients and customers that come into Starbucks can access the Starbucks playlist that they hear when they're in there hanging out, etc. And so it can be a win-win for both companies. That's just an example of strategic alliance. So those are the four types of buying situations. So in that pre-planning, you want to find out what kind of buying situation is this going to be, and then go from there. So when we think about the buying situation, again, we mentioned the type of purchase, which I just kind of went through. But we also want to consider things like the competitor or their current provider. So are they, what are they, if you can find out, what are they charging or what are their costs for the product that they're currently getting or their current provider is charging them? Is there an opportunity to perhaps come kind of under that price? Or if your product is higher in price, this may also be an opportunity to suggest that your quality of product, the advantages, again, thinking about advantages, the features and advantages and benefits of your product and service, and kind of reflecting that price. So I think I always kind of bring up, if you're a very environmentally friendly or a very green company and you offer a product perhaps that's made out of soy versus, chopping down bunches of trees and it's better for the environment, product costs a little more, you may be apt, or a company or a purchaser may be apt to make that change based on that. So again, you need to know your client, you need to know what their interests, needs, values, all of that to be able to assist in solving their problem. Because it is about solving and not selling, although we are selling. It really is about providing solutions to a customer, and I think that's the mindset that this whole course and that when we think about selling should be. And we just mentioned and talked about current pricing. So, is there an opportunity for us to either undercut that price, come in at a lower bid, and save the client some potential money. Some other things, again, as